Episode 1830, One Fallen Puppet. Zhang Yi took Mirana's hand, opened a dimensional door directly behind him, and then took her into a different dimensional space. Plato's eyes were intently observing the space in front of him. Even he himself had to avoid the explosion of the self-destructing dagger at a distance, otherwise he would be easily affected. This time, he should be completely dead. He made this judgment. This is why they will switch from carbon-based civilization to silicon-based civilization. Using super-era technology, powerful weapons can be easily created. As a person with supernatural powers, he would never be able to use attacks of this energy level. Just the thought of consuming so many self-destructing daggers at once made him feel very painful. That kind of material was accumulated over countless years by their entire civilization. Especially when it appears, it is even easier to replenish. But in order to eliminate all stabilizing factors, he did not regret it at all. I remember that this human male possesses a special ability that allows him to temporarily disappear into the current space. But the energy erupted by 30 self-destructing daggers should be enough to break through his defense. Plato's knew that Zhang Yi had the ability to escape through space, but he did not know the principle of this ability and only regarded it as a powerful defensive ability. So, he was very confident and felt that Zhang Yi and Mirana would definitely be seriously injured if they died. Because of the explosion of 30 self-destructing daggers, even if he had the top-level demon body, he would still be injured, and the injury would still be serious. But this confidence and calmness soon disappeared from his eyes. His indifferent expression completely changed from the moment Zhang Yi and Mirana appeared in the void. Mirana's mental state was somewhat good at this time, because it was the first time she entered a different dimension, and the strong feeling of physical and mental separation almost made her collapse. If is strong-willed, she will not be able to withstand. Even when the outside world appeared, she felt like she hadn't been on a battlefield for months. Zhang Yi squeezed her wrist hard. Come back to your senses. We have to find a way to kill that guy. As we agreed, you go use Absolute Zero to control him. No matter how strong Demon God B is, if the abilities of Mirana and Yang Xinshin are combined, it is simply a top-notch match. Close to the rule-based Absolute Zero, coupled with the rule-based Yang Xinshin, no matter how strong the opponent is, he will be controlled the moment he reveals a flaw. But Mirana took a deep look at Zhang Yi and said, "It's not as simple as you think. Only I can do an Absolute Zero attack." Zhang Yi frowned slightly and asked in confusion, why? He felt that Mirana used his ability to seal the opponent, and then he only needed a helper who could break through Plato's defense to kill him directly. Mirana said, "My Absolute Zero is not an ability aimed at a specific target, but a range of skills. So, in other words, all the beings in the field will be stuck in a state of stasis. Only I am able to act." She looked at Zhang Yi. Including any object that attempts to enter the field from the outside world, it will also fall into a stationary state. Zhang Yi smiled. "Yes, there is another situation you didn't mention." Zhang Yishu pointed his finger and said calmly, "The ability to read is only within the scope of. The ability of Nian comes from the Ling, which is the power generated by the will of an alien with strong spiritual power. It will be affected by the passage of time in this world, and is a special existence that transcends the three-dimensional world." Zhang Yi is familiar with this point. His different dimensional space is based on this principle, so it will cause people to feel the separation of spirit and body. "You mean you bring someone with powerful telekinesis abilities?" Mirana frowned and shook his head. "It's useless. Unless his strength can surpass Demon God B, it will be useless." Zhang Yi said, "Is the ability to read, but it is an ability that is even more unsolvable than that." While talking, Zhang Yi had already led Mirana through, keeping Plato's within Mirana's range. "Just do as I say. We have to give it a try. This trip can be in vain," Zhang Yi said in a low voice. Although Mirana still had doubts, she thought that Zhang Yi could take her away, and the danger of death was temporarily lifted, so she decided to listen to Zhang Yi and give it a try. So, she held on to her injured body and once again expanded into the realm of Absolute Zero. zero point 0.1 second in advance, Zhang Yi took the lead to escape before her domain spread. If you let yourself fall into the field, then there will be no way to do the follow-up things. This is also to prevent Malana from betraying him after the matter is completed. The entire space suddenly fell into a still state, like a photo. Plato's body was unable to move. He did not expect that these two humans could survive his attack. He was stunned for a moment, and the suddenness of Zhang Yi's spatial ability made him hit again. Plato secretly knew that the other party would definitely use some special method to attack him. However, at the moment, Morana is not as close as before, but is wrapped in thick dark blue ice to protect himself. Plato's, unable to move his body, could not control those self-destructing daggers. The only thing he could do was to use his powerful telekinesis ability, the power born from the spirit, to form a spirit storm to protect himself. But even so, such an ability is enough to make people fearful. Using the technological weapons on his body and relying solely on his telekinesis ability, he is also one of the few top experts in mechanical civilization. After Malana finished all this, he looked at Zhang Yi in the distance from the corner of his eye. Absolute Zero can be used indefinitely, but with her body injured, she can only create this opportunity for Zhang Yi. If Zhang Yi fails, she will choose to leave this battlefield. Zhang Yi stood on the edge of the Absolute Zero field and, without any hesitation, let Mu Yan open the shadow space. A girl wearing a black combat uniform with waterfall-like hair floated next to Zhang Yi. This is the first time Yang Xinshin appears on the frontal battlefield after being promoted to Epsilon. Her rule-based ability is the power to play with people, and it can also penetrate the material defenses of the three-dimensional world. So, naturally, the Absolute Zero that can freeze the movement of molecules in the three-dimensional world blocks her ability. Everything is planned. Need to say anything more? Yang Xinshin raised her right hand, her obsidian eyes radiating a burning brilliance. Be my puppet. A torrent of black mist burst out from Yang Xinshin's body, and her black hair fluttered in the wind, rising up like a terrifying and beautiful witch. The thick black mist formed a large dark cloud behind her, like a dense ghost aura. And in this huge ghostly aura, a huge and dark wing spread out with a fly, and black feathers flew. Zhang Yi stood next to Yang Xinshin and couldn't help but take a deep breath when he saw the new abilities she gained after being promoted to Epsilon. In the huge dark clouds, a huge figure appeared, with a pair of rotting black wings and an angel whose body was covered with stitching marks. There were traces of black silk stitches all over its body, and its body was twisting strangely, like a manipulated puppet. Looking up along its huge body, one can see black silk threads controlling every joint of it. There is a pair of big white hands controlling the dark clouds, but it is clear that there is something in the black clouds. The second form of Yang Xinshin's desire is Fallen Puppet. Those big white hands controlled the puppet with a twist of Yang Xinshin's palms, then took off the dark wings on his body, turned them into arrows, and placed them on the rusty green bow. He raised his bow and knocked an arrow, shooting at Plato's in the Absolute Zero realm in one go. Plato's original attention was on Morana and Zhang Yi, and he was wary of what these two would do suddenly. But because he understands both Morana and Zhang Yi very well and has most of their information, he is not very nervous. But the sudden appearance of Yang Xinshin on this battlefield gave him a strong sense of crisis. Because of the unknown. The unknown is always the scariest thing, and a powerful and intelligent enemy may bring a meaningless stranger at such a critical time. So that girl, the black arrow shot from the hands of the puppet doll behind her, can definitely be hit. Plato's was very alert, and his eyes were fixed on the black arrow flying rapidly from a distance. Until it broke into the realm of Absolute Zero, the speed only slowed down slightly, but it was still slow. Sure enough, as Morana said, for attacks in the form of thoughts, the Absolute Zero effect of restraining the movement of molecules is minimal. Plato's eyes became serious, and in his eyes, a distorted light became increasingly terrifying. A powerful storm of thought power erupted from his brain, even beginning to distort the light and shadow of the space he was in, and then swept away in the direction of the black arrow. Zhang Yi stared at the black arrow and blinked. Whether he could successfully defeat Demon God B all depended on Yang Xinshin's ability. Buzz. The light and shadow in the space shook violently, and the power of telekinesis was similar to the nature of Yang Xinshin's arrows. This power actually also affected the arrow's travel. Its speed was slowed down, but it was still moving towards Plato's with a firm trend. Plato's is currently unable to move. Unless he can rely on his powerful telekinesis ability to instantly kill Morana in the absolute zero realm, his body will always be in a state of difficulty in movement. But Morana had already been on guard and was far enough away from him. Plato's was afraid that the moment took action, he would be hit by a black arrow. The black arrow headed straight for his head, and soon it was only 5 to 5 meters away from Plato's. In Plato's head, in the area where his power originates, the core power burst out crazily. This arrow must be blocked. I can feel that it contains some special power of rules. Once hit, I will die. The sensitivity to danger allowed Plato's to unleash the most powerful power of thought. Buzz. The arrowheads of the black arrows began to tremble, and their speed of travel was further slowed down. As for the arrow from the string, Zhang Yi and Yang Xinshin were unable to make any further movements. They could only wait helplessly to see if it could hit Plato's body. As long as you succeed, everything will be over. Zhang Yi, Morana, and Yang Xinshin were all unable to break through Plato's defense, and it was even more impossible to kill him instantly. But Plato's himself certainly could. At this moment, Yang Xinshin raised her arm, and the fallen puppet controlled by black threads behind her once again picked off the rotten feathers, turned into arrows, and shot at Plato's. If the first arrow failed, she wanted to add another arrow as insurance. The first arrow had already arrived in front of Plato's, almost touching his steel body. At this moment, a smile appeared on Plato's lips hidden under the steel mask. His telekinesis exploded, and at a very close distance, he finally shook the black arrow with unknown power. Rule-based arrows cannot be destroyed by his power, but their trajectory can be deflected. Plato's body suddenly stood in place, like overlapping images from an old movie, showing one broken image after another. Then forcefully push his body away from the area where he was originally. Call outs. The black arrow passed by him silently and shot downward. Morana's eyes couldn't help but widen. She couldn't believe what her eyes were seeing. This is the first time that is able to move within her absolute zero field. The energy within Plato's mechanical body cannot be used at all because the operation of those machines must involve molecular motion. In other words, Plato's relied purely on his powerful telekinesis to forcefully break Morana's rules. If the strength were not at an absolutely leading level, this would never be possible. But fortunately, although Plato's moved dozens of centimeters within the field, his speed was still slow. The body cannot move, and it can only use telekinesis to forcefully resist the force of absolute zero, causing the body to move. Yang Xinshin's first arrow was prepared for this moment. However, Plato's, who had already experienced it for the first time, obviously would not be easily tricked. His movements are still slow in the absolute zero realm, but as long as he dodges Yang Xinshin's arrows, no one can do anything to him. Zhang Yi is within the absolute realm and cannot take action. It's not that he doesn't want to, but it's meaningless for any matter beyond the capacity of thinking to enter the domain, and may even affect Morana. One arrow failed, and the third arrow also missed Plato's. Yang Xinshin frowned, and her eyes, as deep as obsidian, revealed a hint of anger. In her first battle after being promoted to Epsilon, no accidents are allowed. She is Zhang Yi's most important helper. She rarely appears on the battlefield, but when she appears, she must bring victory. Her brain was running rapidly, and she came up with countermeasures in less than a second. "Brother, let me control your bodies," Yang Xinshin said to Zhang Yi. Zhang Yi was stunned for a moment, then nodded immediately. Good. He has absolute trust in Yang Xinshin. The war situation is urgent at this time, and no one knows how long Morana will be able to maintain the absolute zero field. So I don't need to ask any more questions. I must fully cooperate with Yang Xinshin. Yang Xinshin didn't say anything, but from the huge fog behind her, two silk threads hung down again, heading straight for Zhang Yi. Zhang Yi did not dodge and let the black silk thread bind his arms. An extremely cold feeling came along his arms, but the next moment his hands lost consciousness, as if he had lost control of his body. The power of the fallen puppet can control all objects controlled by it. And all the power of the controlled stranger will be used by Yang Xinxin. Zhang Yi watched helplessly as a large puppet angel with black rotten wings appeared behind him. Then his hands unconsciously appeared, a large spear and an arrow made of black feathers. In his eyes, the power of the second hand of time activated. The wildly swinging second hand formed the trajectory of countless objects in his world, and Zhang Yi's eyes were focused on Plato's trajectory. Yang Xinxin's arrow of absolute control, coupled with Mirana's absolute zero, allowed Zhang Yi to predict the action patterns in the next 3 seconds with the second hand of time. Gather the most powerful power of the three people and shoot the third arrow at Plato's. Call-outs. The jet-black arrow shot out of Zhang Yi's hand and shot through the air in an instant. Its speed was not very fast. It was not difficult for an Epsilon-level alien to dodge. But right now, Plato's has nowhere to hide. Because after Zhang Yi shot the first arrow, Yang Xinxin immediately shot the third, fourth, and fifth arrows. Ahem. She covered her heart and coughed, her face turned pale, because using such a powerful rule power all at once was a heavy load on her body. Zhang Yi felt very distressed. He had already decided that if this attack failed, he would immediately take everyone and leave here. Why is Yang Xinxin's health so important to Plato's core strength? The 5 arrows were almost close together, shooting towards Plato's body. With Zhang Yi's power, they had blocked the path that Plato's could move next. Within the realm of absolute zero, his movement range is predictable. No matter where he hides, he will definitely be hit by an arrow. Sure enough, this attack made Plato's also aware of this troublesome problem. His brain was working like crazy. 5 arrows, even if they explode with all the power, may not be enough to dodge completely. The time and space power users and the frost power users will definitely have the power to fight again. If too much is consumed at one time, the next step may not be possible. Enough to gain an advantage on the battlefield. However, no matter what their power is, wouldn't it be good as long as they avoid the vital points? With this in mind, he ran his telekinesis crazily. The power was so powerful that even the corners of Mirana's mouth, which maintained the domain, overflowed with blood again. Multiple images appeared in that field, but it was the strongest attack of the 3 powerful men. However, the power of these 3 people was extremely powerful, and they cooperated perfectly with each other, so they hid in Plato's. After firing 3 arrows, his legs and arms were still inevitably hit by arrows. Success. The eyes of Mirana and Zhang Yi both burst out with a light of joy. As long as Yang Xinxin's power can hit, the situation will develop in their favor. At this time, Mirana's power has also reached its limit. Maintaining this large-scale powerful field consumes a lot of her. She released the control of the domain. Needless to say, Zhang Yi took out the divine refiner and turned it into a large spear, aiming at Plato's. Boom! Accumulating the most powerful blow, the star-penetrating cannon crossed the less than 5 kilometers boundary between him and Plato's in an instant, and shot hard on his body. The body belonging to demon god Plato's, after leaving the domain, was unable to withstand Zhang Yi's attack after being controlled by Yang Xinxin's arrows. He was blasted away hard, like a meteorite falling to the earth, fiercely shot to the ground. The powerful force enveloped him, and the moment he fell, he tore the earth apart. The light of the star-penetrating cannon shone on the ground line, and the earth and rocks shattered and rose into the sky. However, this blow is not a killing move. Zhang Yi has seen the strength of the demon god's body. Even if this kind of attack can hurt Plato's, it will never kill him. He did this just to further create conditions for Yang Xinxin to attack. However, the next moment, an extremely terrifying force erupted from the ground where Plato's fell. The strong thought energy scattered the earth and rocks that bound him, and the storm caused by the thought energy wave soared into the sky with a harsh, whistling sound. Plato's body slowly flew up into the sky, and Zhang Yi, Yang Xinxin, and Morana could clearly see that he had lost one arm and one leg. It is indeed the power of fun. Plato looked at Yang Xinxin and was shocked in his heart. He didn't expect that among the humans they looked down upon, there were so many powerful warriors. Those weird powers make them, whose strength and technology far exceed those of humans, feel threatened. Very decisive. Yang Xinxin's eyes flashed with a dark light as she commented softly. The sinful angel's arrow can control all objects it is shot at. No longer just objects, non-objects can also be controlled. According to the plan, they should control Plato's body and then kill him. It's a pity that only half of his body is carbon-based, and most of the rest has been mechanized. Therefore, he could remove the part of his body that was hit by the arrow without hesitation and let the three of Zhang and Yi shoot it down in the air.